Okay, so Marcos is going to show us this Baitfish Emulator, which is a new product from Hareline and looks just awesome for tying streamers or winging. I mean, a variety of use.
It's got kind of an interesting look to it. It's got kind of the transparent, opaque fibers to it, but it also has the pearl sheen in there as well.
Yeah, when we sell two products. One's called Cactus Chenille, which is kind of a pearl chenille, and then the other one, Ice Chenille, which is a crystal clear nylon material in the chenille. And so what we've done here is about a 20% is cactus and the rest is the clear.
Okay.
And so you'll see in the dyed colors, you have really intense, bright colors. The pearlescent doesn't dye to that intensity.
Right.
So having the 20% of the pearl in there gives it that sparkle or that
a little bit
effect.
of highlight to it, yeah, real baitfishy looking.
And then the clear gives you the intense color. So, and it's just basically, you know, for clouser type, minnow, baitfish patterns. And we've just developed this, so I'm sure there will be additional patterns that people will come up with and dream up over time. And it really doesn't take much. All you need is about 2 or 3 inches of this just to be able to handle it. And tie it in. I normally tie on the near side, tie back, and with 3 or 4 winds of this, and I'll just tie right over itself to create a body. And then I'll try to split the fibers out of the way so you don't tie any down. And I like folding fiber back and locking it in. That way, there's no way that's ever going to come loose.
Yeah, it is really secured in place then.
There's a tyer called Oliver Edwards out of the UK who does a lot of those. Just little tricks that just make your flies so much better. Or durable.
It's kind of interesting. Fly tying really is a private act. You don't get the chance to see a lot of other people doing it. Usually it's at your house, you know.
Right.
So yeah, looking at what someone else is doing is kind of a unique opportunity to see things that you don't always think of.
So after this point, all you need to do is get a couple of large eyeballs and place them on here. See if I have them sitting around here. And once they're positioned on there, you epoxy it and you're done. And you can easily grab a secondary color. Let's grab a blue here. And if you can, you know, imagine just taking off a section of this and tying it on top, it'll give you another great looking minnow body.
Your dorsal collar.
Yeah, and the bulk that is created at the head. If you want to, what if you want to dip that in Softex?
You could easily dip it in Softex.
And then you can have that mass without heavy use of extra
Epoxy
materials
and
epoxy. Yeah.
Now, do you do the wrap to do the dorsal color, or do you just cut it off?
I would just lay it on top.
Okay.
Because or else you'd end up with fiber below also. So if you just want it as a topping, you just cut off a section of it, lay it on top, and tie it in before you finish.
Now, in going through some of the bags of this stuff, Marcos, you can see it a little bit on that blue. See how it's a little bit crinkled compared to...
In the dye process, whenever you dye anything above 120 degrees, you're going to get some product where it shrinks down a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think the colored versions are going to be more for topping or other types of patterns. I think for the minnow, obviously the pearl and black and
the gray is a nice
and grays are going to be the best sellers. We do have a lot of jig tires, believe it or not, that are going to start using this on their steelhead jigs.
Sure. Yeah.
As you can see,
It's got a
give them a lot of life.
huge amount of applications, no doubt about it.
So the primary use we've come up with it is for these type of patterns, baitfish, minnow imitations, and I'm sure it'll go beyond that with time.
And I think unlike calf and bucktail, when you tie that down on a clouser, the binding and the durability
Right.
with that thread over the top is going to be a little better than the hair, which won't compress as much.
Well,
Because
not to
clousers
mention
tend
that
to
you're
blow
not,
up.
you're not going to have that deer hair cracked in half kind of look
Yeah,
after it's
yeah.
been chewed on a few times.
And it will move much softer in the water than a natural elk, bucktail or squirrel, things like that. It'll have much more flow.
When you get this material wet, I've
Ah,
experimented a little bit. It just slicks back and looks absolutely incredible.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Synthetics, as Bob said in an earlier interview you guys did, has really taken off in fly tying over the last 5-8 years. And so we've added a couple of pseudo products. One is Pseudo Marabou, which you can use as a marabou substitute for tailing or for collars. And I'm just going to tie a really quick woolly bugger using two materials, which is the Pseudo Marabou and Pseudo Hackle. And Pseudo Hackle is like a ribbon without the cross sections in it. So what I'm going to do here is cut it at an angle so that you have a natural taper like you would with a saddle hackle. You usually start fairly close in. And I'm not doing a large fly here, so I'm not going to let it get too long in the front section there. You can shape it any way you want. So there I've got a tapered Pseudo Hackle. And then for tailing, I'm going to use Pseudo Marabou, and for the body I'm going to use the same material without trimming it off. And I've teased out a section of Pseudo Marabou. And same thing with, you don't want to cut materials with scissors to give you a taper. That's not a natural looking taper. So I'm just going to switch it around here. If you want to create a natural taper, you have a lot of loose extra material, just pinch it and tear. And that looks much more natural than that it does. So I'm going to tie that in for the tail, and you can trim it later also if you want to get it thinner. And usually tailing is the length of the overall hook shank. And give that 2 or 3 turns right at the end here. Lock it in. And then for the hackle, just like you would with a normal hackle, I'm going to trim off a tie-in point in the back. Position it on the bottom of the hook shank. And I'm going to bring my thread forward here. And then the staple length of Pseudo Marabou is about 8 inches. So you've got plenty of material here to work with. You can just grab that and twist it a bit and wind it forward. And depending on the taper you want, you can tighten it up or loosen it up as you go. And then at the end here, we're going to twist it up a bit. And we're going to wind the hackle. The same thing with normal hackle, you can tease it back as you wind. And finish it. And we'll trim off the excess head. There you got your Pseudo woolly bugger.